Alright folks, after you take your tire off and you have your vehicle supported and jacked up, there's only 3 sizes of socket you need for the strut tower. Removal of the 2004 Subaru Forester XS or S, or any Forester, I believe, in that matter. This is a McPherson strut tower, so you don't have a upper control arm. You only have a lower control arm, which you don't have to touch. You don't have to touch your tie rod ends or anything like that. So what I have here is a 19mm socket, a 12mm socket that takes off the bolt for your rubber brake line and for your ABS sensor line here. So that socket will remove that. However, up top to remove the 3 bolts that hold your strut in, you're going to need a longer weld one to be able to bypass the studs here so it doesn't get stopped by the stud and stop the socket from fitting the nut fully and not stripping off. So I have a deep weld here that allows the stud to fit inside the socket, and I'm going to use a ratchet to crack it loose and then a electric ratchet to take it off. This is basically what I'm going to be working with, is just those 3 bolts. You do got to worry about this kicking out towards you, so I'm going to use the scissor jack here on the bottom to try to support this, and if I need it lowered to take this strut out after I take it off of here, I'm going to just wind up lowering the jack a little bit and then pulling the strut out. When you pull the strut out, this brake line is going to be all the way on this side, and I'll show you later. When you take your strut out, you're going to want to fish it underneath your brake line, or else you could take a chance of really doing some damage to your ABS sensor line or your rubber brake line if you take it out the other way. So also, just for a little bit of caution, when you do take them off, you always got to make sure you put a piece of cardboard or something on the top side of your boot, so when your strut does fall on it, you don't tear your boot, because if you tear your boot, you're going to wind up losing all the grease on your CV axle, and that's going to cost you another repair later on down the road when the grease is emptied out and the CV axle starts clicking on you. So that is about as far as I got right now, guys. I just wanted to show you guys the sockets. Remember, that is a 19mm and that is a 12mm, and that's a 12mm right there. So those bolts there, and this bolt here, and this bolt here is all 12mm. Like I said, I'm just going to use a deep weld socket for the top ones, but the bottom ones, even though they're rusty, they should still come out. I think it'll come out with an impact fairly easy. So we're going to go from here. All right, hold on, guys. I'm going to show you the rest of the stages here in just 1 minute. All right, guys, one thing I did want to make sure I carried on here is make sure that this strut, the brackets, the holes, and the length from here to here looks the same, even if you have to measuring tape it. Just make sure it's the same, because there's been several times, folks, where I've taken the strut off or the brakes off or the whatever part it was, and it just to find out it was the wrong part, and then I had to put all the old parts back on again. So to save yourself that little bit of a headache, just make sure that this strut or your strut that you're replacing looks just like this strut here. You definitely want to make sure, because if you get the rear strut and you don't pay attention, the rear strut is actually longer than the front strut. So let me show you what I'm talking about. This is what I mean by inspecting the shaft length right here. See the difference? Look at the length of this one, right? It's completely longer. So you definitely want to make sure that you inspect the strut, just to make sure that you got the right strut and to make sure that you can make an adequate replacement without having to put everything back together and doing all that work for no reason. Hey guys, these bolts look like they're pretty rusted on. That one's spinning, so we're gonna have to use a wrench or a pair of pliers to be able to put on the back side here, or maybe another 19. We'll go 3/4 on this side. Yeah, 3/4 maybe on this side. Yeah, 3/4 socket on this side should work. Being that's a little rusted, it fits on pretty tight, so that's nice. So I'm gonna get my ratchet, stick it on the end here. Turn this on. Oh, wrong side anyway, duh. But anywho, I don't think I'm going to be able to use that because of the size of the... So let's use the 3/4 here, or 19mm. Let's see, 19mm. Alright, we'll use a small 19mm socket down here so I can fit my ratchet in there. Oh, let's see if we can get it in there. Might have to stick it all in one piece. Doing this with one hand is a little bit more of a chore. Yeah, it fits in there. Good. All right, now let's see if we can get this. Good. Bolts are out. So now all we have to do is give a little love tonight. Get our hammer, stick our nut back on there to protect the threads. Right about where I can feel the top of the stud here. Right about there. And pop that down. Pop that nut off. Let's see here. I'm basically making this video in almost real time other than when I need 2 hands. So if the video is 15 minutes or 20 minutes, that's about how long it's going to take. I have a feeling it's going to take about 45 minutes. This looks pretty boogered up here. So we're going to find out maybe right now. That's a itty bitty bitty. Let's see if they come off with this little ass ratchet here. Alright, stripping the gears. Alright, that came off a little easier than I thought it would have. They were pretty rusted. I mean, it's giving resistance through the whole thing. So we'll tie your hand out, but it shouldn't be too bad, guys. I put this piece of cardboard down here to catch all my nuts and bolts. That's all I'm doing there. Take that off, move this brake line out of the way. Let's pop this one, looks bad. I think I cracked it loose. Maybe not. Alright, jack handle, will you fit? Yes you will. No you won't. Alright, 2 hands here for a minute, folks. Hold on. Alright, I thought I broke my ratchet, but I got it off. I just wound up hitting it with my hammer. Bang, smack the handle down to crack it loose. And then take it off from here. It's actually coming out pretty good considering. I mean, it's, yeah, they're all fighting you every step of the way, but really not that bad. Alright, take that bolt out, stick it with this other one. Push it down here. Give me my... Alright, it's going to do that to me. So, let's screw this back in a little bit. It's stuck in my socket. Switch my gear setting here so I can spin it on. Why ain't you turning? Alrighty, got that out. Get this little pound. Ooh, see how it kicks out? You kind of want to prevent that because if you look back here, what it's going to do is push your axle in and out. And it could pull it out of the actual gearbox. So we're going to make sure that I get a jack and I'm going to stick it underneath the front of the wheel here, forcing it to stay upright. Being that I have one more bolt in there, I think that'll be a good little catch. So I'm going to let this go and go grab that little scissor jack. Okay, I grabbed my Jeep scissor jack that I gave to my mom because she didn't have one. But if you notice, if I loosen this up, you'll see that arm pop out. See that? Now if I tighten this, press on this and tighten, now you'll see that it stays back in, and the further you tighten it, the further in it goes. So I'm doing this to help it prevent from pulling out of the shaft there. So this is basically how I'm going to do this. I'm going to take this bolt out. Right, and I'm going to take these off about now. So one-handed once again. All right. That's on tighten. Put it on loosen. Surprised this thing took it off. Huh. Almost lost it, but alright, there's one. This thing has enough torque to surprise you. I'm glad I bought them. They were probably the best investment I think I've actually made in a reasonable aspect in a long time. They really do help your job go a little faster. I've always been... Yeah, it has a little... It has some good torque. Probably not enough to crack a bolt like the strut tower bolt, but definitely enough for these smaller jobs. Being the fact that this is a strut, and it takes these itty bitty nuts, I am shocked, but hey, it's what makes the world go round, right? So now that these nuts are off, I should just be able to take this one out, pop that strut off, put my piece of cardboard underneath the axle here, slide this piece underneath the axle in the strut tower, so it's going to look like this from the front side. There's your strut tower right there, 2 bolts. You go to stick your piece of cardboard. There's the drive axle boot right here. This is all the drive axle boot. You're going to protect it with a piece of cardboard. Then give this a little pop. Washer fell off. There's only one washer on that. That's interesting. Now let's lower this here. There we go. Pull that right out. Where's the other one? I'd really like to find the other bolt. So I'm going to have to do that. Here's the nut. Stick this on together with the washer so we don't lose our parts. I always try to do this, if it's at all possible, stick it back on the car where it belongs so you don't really have to guess where it goes and you don't lose them. So one hand is hard. I mean, this is obviously a job for 2 hands, but I'm doing it with one just so you guys can see. It really ain't that hard. Now you see how the whole strut tower and everything moves? Shake it until it rattles right off of here. Alright, struts off. They disappeared, they pushed down underneath. Now you're gonna have to bear with me here. Let's see if I could show you what I'm talking about and doing here. You gotta watch your boot. Cardboard's coming off. And it should just slide right back. Pull this out underneath your brake line, like I told you. Slide it out from under your brake line. Ugh. And that is out. That is all it takes, ladies and gentlemen. And then you grab your new one. You reverse the process. You stick this back underneath the brake line, pick it up, and set it down in. So I'm going to take my cardboard out, and I'm going to try to hook this up so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. It really isn't that hard, folks, to do your struts. If you could just take the couple minutes to learn how to do it, you will save yourself a boatload of money when it comes to replacing any part on your vehicle. And I've always found it very nice and rewarding when I was able to do something that somebody goes to college for and learns how to be a tech through GM, and here you're a disabled person who broke his back at work and now got a little PTSD from the military and growing up, I guess. So I'm going to turn around and do exactly what they did, and I'm not going to have a degree, period, in doing this. Oh, well, first off, something they don't really do is make this mistake, but I did. There's one nut on it. The strut only came with one nut. So, yeah, let's do this again. Back up in there. You go up through the top so you can line up the strut tower. With the bolts. Stick a nut on. You want to stick the nut on. Now that I got it up in here, right? You want to stick your nuts on so this way your strut doesn't fall back down. So now this strut is almost done and back on the vehicle. And how long did that really take you? Honestly, it would have taken you about maybe 25 minutes, such as it has me. Right now, this has been going on for 14 minutes, so I'm going to cut it and make a part 2.